Welcome, everybody, to United in Strengths. We're so pleased to have you here. It's Ryan Niemiec and Ruth Pierce here with the VIA Institute on Character, and I'm delighted to introduce our special guest here in just a moment. But just a first quick orientation to those of you who are new to United in Strengths or here for the first time. So United in Strengths is our VIA community, our community where we connect with one another. And we use and think about and discuss how character strengths have an important role in our well-being and also in managing adversities and struggles and stressors and conflicts and so on. And so we really try to teach and think about and reflect, practice three main words: remember, breathe, and connect. To remember that we have 24 character strengths to turn to at any of these adverse times, these difficult times, challenging times. And we can remember to pause, to breathe, to recenter ourselves, refocus ourselves. And then we can also remember to connect with one another. And then that can be one of our great resources, to err on the side of connecting. Whenever in doubt, err on connecting with other people. So that's our tagline for United in Strengths, and everything that we do really stems from those three words. And so once a month we have a guest speaker, and so today I'm very honored and excited and happy to introduce to you my friend and my colleague Masaya Okamoto. And I want to kind of offer just some thoughts about Masaya before I turn it over to him. So Masaya is a researcher and a practitioner at the Institute of Wellbeing and Happiness at Tecmilenio Universidad, which that translates to Tecmilenio University, by the way. So Tecmilenio has 30 campuses and is located in Mexico, some 60,000 or so students. And interestingly, it was and is the first positive university in the world, and maybe the only one still. And that's because they bring positivity and well-being practices and research to every single student and faculty member. And Masaya, in his role, is very central to that. And Masaya has been leading MBSP. So we've talked about MBSP here, mindfulness-based strengths practices, the integration of mindfulness and character strengths. So Masaya has been leading an initiative that's bringing MBSP to every single student on every campus and the faculty, and also conducting some research on it. So we might hear about some of that today. Now, Masaya is just really the perfect person to be doing the work that he's doing and to be here today because his work with mindfulness and character strengths and virtues, well-being, has been the work of his entire life. And I actually mean that literally, because he started meditating at age 3. And then continued on. And then he started in with his yoga practice at age 6. And then at a very young age, as a child still, started Qigong and Tai Chi practices. And has lived those practices out for the decades that he's lived on this planet. He's also, and he'll tell you about some of this, but he's traveled to many different countries and lived there for long periods of time. Unlike me, I might travel to a country and stay there for a week. He stays there for years and studies at their universities and gets to know the culture and the practices. And he obviously knows many languages. So Masaya is going to speak to us on integral virtuous mindfulness and universal compassion. So talking about these topics that are so core to United in Strengths. And I'm just so excited to have you here, Masaya. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Ryan, for this great introduction. And I'm very happy to be here today with all of you. And I really want to begin this session with my deep gratitude to the life of every one of you, to the life you are living in this very moment, and all the strengths and virtues you have in this very moment at different times, at different places on this planet. So we are literally united in this space with all our strengths and virtues, with the present moment awareness. So I want to begin this session with this just one breathing everyone together, just one breathing with this deep gratitude. Okay? So let's breathe in and breathe out with all our hearts. Thank you for connecting. I'm Masaya again. Ryan talked about me a little bit. Today I want to talk about a new integration of mindfulness. It's kind of an integration of Eastern and Western mindfulness. And also that's also what I have been looking for, what I have been searching in my entire life, the synthesis of the wisdom of the East and West, of the ancient times and the modern period. So now we have the opportunity to integrate all the best practices, all the best theories, all the best philosophies of all cultures. And now not only writing books and reading books, not only talking about it, now we have the opportunity to live it. But now what I want to share is to expand the way in which we can see the concept of mindfulness in a deep way. Because now I think all of you have heard about mindfulness, and many of you have been practicing mindfulness for many years, and also character strength. But now what I want to offer is a framework we can use in a deeper structure of our consciousness. So as Ryan mentioned, I started my practice of meditation at the age of 3. But actually last year I went back to Japan and I asked my father, and he told me I was even meditating before the age of 3. But I don't remember, so I want to be honest. So I always say at the age of 3, but yes, that's been my life really. And I've discovered humbly very subtle states of consciousness and how to develop our consciousness in a better way so that we can expand our love, so that we can expand all our virtues and strength in ourselves and with the world. So all these contemplative practices have been the core of my life, and now I want to share this presentation very, very briefly. And in the meantime, you can write your questions and comments in the chat. And later we can do a practice of meditation and Q&A. So I want to begin by introducing this concept of virtuous mindfulness. Well, Ryan has talked a lot about the integration of mindfulness and character strength, and it's very similar in terms of integrating mindfulness with character strength and character strength with mindfulness. And now I want to tune our consciousness to our best quality of universal compassion. So throughout all my life and all my academic and practical preparations and cultivation, I have discovered 3 fundamental elements for a universal search in human life. And every human being should search these 3 things throughout the history. The first is well-being and flourishing. It's been the main themes of many philosophers and educators throughout the history. We all look for happiness and well-being, flourishing. Nobody wants to suffer. Nobody wants to expand suffering. So this is kind of a subtle direction of the universe. And on one side, we want to grow. Nobody wants to be worse each day. Everybody wants to be better. So this is an evolution and growth. And another thing we search is service and contribution, not only cultivating the best within us, but also we want to serve, we want to give, we want to contribute to the society, to the family, to the entire world. So these three elements have been also part of my life and part of my teachings in terms of sharing mindfulness and character strength. Why are we practicing mindfulness? Why are we practicing character strength? I think in many ways we can connect our practices with these three elements that are very important to the life of any human being. So our great ideal would be to achieve well-being and flourishing of all. And we hear this concept of human flourishing. But in many ways, we hear the individual human flourishing, achieving our highest potentials, developing our virtues and character strength, and achieving integral well-being. And sometimes we also hear this human flourishing at the collective level, achieving the flourishing within family, friends, organizations, communities, societies. But all of these are human flourishing. Now I want to expand a little bit to include the entire planet. So I think this is the best way to approach our ideal, the life on Earth, to go for planetary flourishing, not only human flourishing, but also the flourishing of humanity, the entire humanity, all animals, plants, nature, all the ecosystems, so that our planet can also achieve harmony and balance, well-being and happiness, and all these miraculous ways of sustaining life. So this is what I call integral flourishing in a very simple way. There are many different details, but for this purpose, we can cultivate our mindfulness and character strength, and we can be more in tune with this deep meaning in life to increase the integral well-being. To achieve that, I also discovered in many texts, many sacred texts and many teachings of different traditions, wisdom traditions, and also through my personal practices, there are essential qualities that we need to cultivate to achieve that integral flourishing and our highest ideal in life, to really live a meaningful life. Those are very simple. We are invited to cultivate our consciousness, because we are here on this planet as a human being, and it's a very interesting experience. When I was 7 years old, I was asking myself, why am I alive? Why can I move? How can I see? How can I perceive the world? What is the source of consciousness that exists within myself? And what is the essence of my life? And all these philosophical questions. But observing, by simple observations, we can see that the entire universe has material evolution. All the galaxies, all the planets, all the systems. We are part of solar system, and we are here on the planet Earth that has a material basis. But this planet has a biological basis too, because this planet produced not only the evolution of a material base, which are mountains and rocks and all the earth element, but also here we can observe life. And that's very curious. From the first life in water, the bacteria and all the plants, and they produce oxygen. And then once we had in a sufficient level of oxygen, the life evolved to be animals, right? That can breathe. So in this sequence of evolution, our ancestor Homo sapiens arrives, but with a different quality, which is to have consciousness. The material base that has consciousness and life. That's very curious to me. And human beings not only have consciousness, but also has the capacity to be self-conscious, to be self-aware. And this is something that is very important for me to develop in this time to really expand our consciousness, to find our true identity deep within ourselves. So this is one side, just one quality of essential quality, development of consciousness, cultivation of consciousness. And the second is wisdom. Really, we are here to learn different lessons through various experiences. And we have all the references of different philosophers and sages on the universal wisdom and different laws, different universal laws that govern the whole nature and the whole universe. So we are invited to be wise, to live in harmony with nature, to be in harmony with all the wisdom that had been revealed, that had been practiced by many individuals on this planet. And then the last qualities I consider very important are the virtues, really. The human virtues are the core of this bringing the good to the entire world. So in this context, I want to talk about mindfulness and character strength, to develop consciousness, wisdom, and virtues. So when I talk about virtuous mindfulness, I define it as a quality of consciousness with the present moment awareness, applying virtuous attitudes, character strength, and universal virtues. So when we hear the term mindfulness, many people think about bringing the attention to the present moment. But there are something more we can do, because we can bring our attention in a very negative way without bringing virtues, without bringing character strength. But this model of virtuous mindfulness has three layers, we can say. This is the internal structure of what I call virtuous mindfulness. The first layer is the attention. When we practice mindfulness, we pay attention to the present moment. And that's very important, this prefrontal cortex attention, executive function. And with this practice, we can cultivate our will. But not only attention, we can also apply at the same time different attitudes. Those are the mindful attitudes of mindfulness, such as beginner's mind, acceptance, trust, compassion, empathy, gratitude in the present moment. And in this way, we can create the best states of consciousness in each moment we consciously pay attention. But behind that attention and attitudes, we can also apply character strength at the core of our personality. So this is an approach that I have been practicing for many years, even without knowing the MBSP and the language of character strength. And this works very, very deeply at the experiential level. So the first layer is attention, and what I teach when I teach mindfulness, I say it's a quality of consciousness that has two pillars. The first is attention, the second are attitudes. And in terms of attention, I'm not going to read everything, but I think you have heard of all these. It consists of cultivating attention in the present moment, being aware of everything that is happening internally and externally, being aware of breathing, body, mind, and the laws of nature. Observe clearly, going back to the present moment billions of times. Remember to remember. There is an interesting phrase of Suzuki Roshi who said, the most important thing is to remember the most important thing. It's a very deep practice of paying attention, going back, and remember to remember. But in this aspect, I think it's very important also to improve the quality of attention. Not only paying attention, but also to improve the quality of attention that we are paying. And this goes to the second aspect or second pillar of mindfulness, attitudes that we can apply in at the moment we pay attention, accepting every situation as it is, non-judgment, beginner's mind, patience, trust, non-striving, letting go, gratitude, empathy, compassion, generosity, gentleness, etc. So we can apply all these attitudes in the present moment, maintaining the awareness of whatever is happening, and now bringing gratitude, bringing empathy, generosity, patience, beginner's mind. And this has a better result in terms of the living experience of mindfulness compared to just paying attention to the present moment. And this concept is also based on our intention, this our power of will, to have the clarity of why we are practicing the intention. And this comes to the very deep context that I have shared, intention. Why are we practicing mindfulness? Maybe we can tune our energy to the achievement of integral flourishing by cultivating consciousness, wisdom, and virtue. And so those are the attitudes of mindfulness that I mentioned. So what I call attitudes of mindfulness are the second layer behind attention. Not only paying attention, but also applying all these attitudes in the present moment. But beyond that, we can use the language of character strength that we know very well, applying all the 6 virtues and character strengths. And this is a lifelong journey, really. Lifelong journey, and I really apply also the beginner's mind every day, even though I've been practicing meditation for many years, every day, at least 2 hours a day. But I apply humility, I apply the beginner's mind of beginner's mind. That's a very interesting experience. To have the beginner's mind about the concept of beginner's mind, or about the experiential living of beginner's mind. So the concept is, now time is short, but the concept is to apply all the strength with conscious present moment awareness in any moment that we can bring attention, in any moment that we can go back to our present moment. We can go back to our breathing, we can go back to our body, but we can also go back to our character strengths every time we pay attention. So just reviewing the concept of virtuous mindfulness, which has 3 layers, but we can also add the 4th layer, which is virtues. And this concept of virtuous mindfulness can be applied to increase the level of well-being in different areas of life. So virtuous mindfulness can be applied to achieve integral well-being, and I use this model of SPIRE: spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, emotional well-being. Some of the examples, we can be more aware of our purpose and meaning every day. We can come back, we can go back to our purpose and meaning every hour or every 2 hours in daily lives, or going back to review the list of virtues and achieving some sort of union depending on the belief of each individual. At the physical level, we can consciously practice breathing, bodily awareness. We can also do physical exercise more consciously, paying attention to the muscles, the movements, the breathing. And we can also use our present moment awareness to improve our diet, what we eat for health. And we can consciously organize our time to rest well. And intellectually, we can also apply mindfulness to increase attention, to have better perception of life, and to maintain mental hygiene, metacognition. At the relational level, we can practice compassionate attention, effective communication, positive relationship more consciously and more virtuously, applying the present moment awareness, virtuous attitudes of mindfulness, as well as all the character strengths that we have. The emotional level, increasing emotional regulation, intelligence, positive emotions, more consciously and virtuously. And this is a model of SPIRE, but I also want to add the environmental well-being, because we cannot live in a sick planet. We cannot live in a sick society. So I think it's very important to consider the environmental aspect of well-being. And some of the practices are the connection with nature, conscious and responsible actions, care for the ecosystem and the planet. So just as we practice mindfulness with breathing, just as we practice mindfulness with all the washing the dishes, walking, and bathing, and all these daily actions, daily activities, we can also make all these activities, connection with nature, with more consciousness, with more awareness. So this is a practice of virtuous mindfulness applied to integral well-being. And we can also expand a little bit. It's not so conceptualized, I think, in this way, but there are financial area and also the occupational area that we can also cultivate mindfully and virtuously. Well, so this virtuous mindfulness can be applied to all the other strengths and virtues that are not part of 24 character strengths and 6 virtues as well, and also applied to integral well-being and other variables, other important things in life, such as peace, meaning, universal spirituality, planetary consciousness, and universal compassion. But these attention, virtuous attitudes, and character strengths are the core qualities that we can apply at any area, for any areas of our lives. So this is what I'm going for: virtuous mindfulness applied to planetary consciousness and universal compassion. It's something to do with expansion of consciousness and achieving transcendence for integral flourish. Really bringing our attention, expanding our consciousness to include all human beings, all beings on the planet, to bringing our virtues to the planet. As Albert Einstein said, our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. So this is very, very deep phrase, and this is what I want to practice now, what I want to share, this practice of universal compassion, which is based on the traditional loving kindness meditation that you all maybe have heard of or practiced.
Masaya, can I interrupt just 1 second? I just wanted to jump in and just say, thank you. It was true to what you said, an integration and an integral approach here with virtue and strengths and mindfulness. So beautifully done. If there was one quick question I wonder if you could tackle before you jump into the meditation. Anna asks kind of a clarification question. What is the main difference between virtuous attitudes and character strengths?
Yeah, those attitudes comes from the attitudes of mindfulness, traditionally taught by maybe mentioned by John Kabat-Zinn and the other researchers. And then character strengths are a different language. But in essence, when we practice, I think they are very similar. And some of them has some correlations that they have similar language, like gratitude, curiosity. They are interconnected. So those are I separate these two languages because the attitudes comes from mindfulness. Character strengths are a different language, but in essence, they are very similar.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, so shall we practice the meditation? Yeah. So this is to expand our consciousness from oneself to the social circle, and the planetary circle. Expanding the circle of compassion. So now I want to invite all of you to encounter a comfortable posture for the practice of meditation. And you can maintain your spine erect, relaxing your body. And when you are ready, you can start closing your eyes gently. And listening to the rhythm of your breathing. And when you hear the sound, you can pay more attention to your internal body and internal mind. Keep breathing deeply, feeling the sensations in our nostrils, the air coming in and out gently. Deeply connecting with our breathing, with our life. Feeling the sensations, feeling any movements in our nostril, in our chest, our abdomen. Now going more deeply inside ourselves to the source of consciousness that observe our breathing. Connect intuitively to the origin of consciousness, the origin of the observer that observes the breathing. And from that deep internal point of view, feel the entire body expanding our attention to our whole body. And feeling the presence of heartbeats. And more deeply pay attention to our hearts. Feel all the goodness, love, compassion, all the virtues in our hearts. And we can imagine that love and compassion, goodness, and all the virtues circulate throughout the body, through blood vessels, filling ourselves with deep love, compassion, gratitude. And now sending all the best wishes to ourselves, from ourselves and to ourselves. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. Breathing in and out, connecting to our hearts, and now widening our circle of compassion and love to our families, friends. We can visualize mentally one person or different persons at the same time within the circle of family and friends. And from our hearts, send all our good wishes to all of them. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. Going back to the breath, inhaling and exhaling. And now widening our circle of compassion and love to every human being on this planet. We can visualize every person in the same building, in the same city, in the same country, the entire continents, every continent and every island, visualizing every human being, from children to elderly people, every woman and man, visualizing with compassion, love, and gratitude. And let's send our best wishes to every one of them. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. Breathe in and out with all our virtues, love and compassion. And now let's expand our circle of compassion and love to every being on this planet, visualizing as much as possible all the animals, plants, the entire nature, and the entire planet, wishing the best for all being, sending our love and compassion to every one of the beings. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. Breathing deeply with this connectedness, and breathe out. Coming back to our heart, all the love and compassion came from our hearts. The first subject that received that love and compassion was ourselves. Now bringing conscious awareness to that best quality we have, and tuning all the virtues and love for the sake of the well-being of all, for the integral flourishing, visualizing that all beings can live in harmony with nature, in harmony with the entire universe. And with that awareness, let's go back to our breathing, feeling the sensations in our nostrils. And when you are ready, we can feel our body, our posture, and moving the fingers, integrating mind and body. And we can pay our attention to our eyes. And when you're ready, we can open our eyes. Very good. Welcome back to the world. So now I think we can have a little bit of space for Q&A.
Yes, and so while we see if anyone would like to raise their hand, simply click on the participants button and then click on raise your hand, and we'll get an alert and we will call on you and hear your comments or your questions from Masaya. And while we're waiting on that, Masaya, I just wanted to thank you for that beautiful meditation. I love how it goes full circle, and I love the many layers to it, just beautifully done. And it seemed like others certainly agreed. So thanks for all this wonderful in-depth work here. This is terrific. And while we see if other questions come in, I forgot to mention in my introduction of you, and I know you were going to mention it about right now anyway, is that Tech Millennium, led by you and some others at Tech Millennium, is going to be hosting a conference, a Wellbeing 360 conference in a couple weeks. And there's many free components to it. The keynotes, I understand, are free. The kind of guest speakers are free on a variety of different topics across 4 days. But then people can pay extra for some specialized workshops. And so I want to turn it to you to say a little bit about that. But while we do that, I'll put the link to the conference in the chat. It's just so people know, it's wellbeing360.mx. MX for Mexico, but so wellbeing360.mx, and I'll put that in here. But Masaya, anything else you'd like to say about this? Because I know your team has been working tirelessly on this. So yeah.
Yes, I've got here some slides.
Good.
So this is a yearly conference that we are hosting, the Institute of Wellbeing and Happiness. And this year we are hosting an event in conjunction with IPEM, and we call it Wellbeing 360. And here's the link that Ryan should have put on chat, wellbeing360.mx. And Ryan is one of our speaker, and I invite you all to participate in his keynote presentation, Mindfulness-Based Strength Practice. And then he is going to give a workshop again, as well on getting practical with character strength. The keynote presentations are for free, and workshop there are a little bit of cost. I myself is going to also give a keynote on conscious transformation of adversity into mindful well-being, purpose, and resilience, and workshop, Virtuous Mindfulness for mindful well-being. Some of the things that we talked about today, but we are going to deepen more on this workshop. And there are many speakers from Martin Seligman, Leah Walters, many important people from positive psychology. So they are, all of you are very invited really to register here on wellbeing360.mx. There's no cost for registration, and you can also access, it's a 5-day event from 26th of October to 30th. So you are all invited.
Beautiful. Thank you, Masaya. And let's see if there's any questions at all, or if anyone wants to share their comments in the chat. Just so you know, Masaya, people have been raving about your presentation and the meditation and saying how impactful and powerful it was and how grateful they are that you are here with us today. One person even said it's their single favorite presentation we've had on United in Strength. So that's also to your credit. So thank you so much. And if no one else has a question, I'm happy to ask questions. Masaya and I get a chance though to talk every couple months, by Zoom. So I get my questions in, but I'll go ahead and ask another one while we wait and see if anybody else has one.
Sure.
But so Masaya, when you talked about transcendence, I think that can be somewhat of a tricky word, and we can kind of assume what's meant by that. But each religion and each person's belief systems will interpret that word a little differently. And so I'm curious how you think of transcendence when it comes to mindfulness and character strengths and virtuous practice. Because there's the level of, are you talking about sort of a transcendence in consciousness where the person is then functioning on sort of a, for lack of a better phrase, higher level after that because of that impact? Or are you talking about in the sense of in one's meditation, one leads to a higher level of consciousness, sort of a transcendence? Or are you meaning it more the way I tend to mean it, which is finding transcendence in any moment? Like, that we can kind of, find the present moment and transcend our suffering in that moment, transcend our autopilot mind in any moment. So, and then of course people could take it in far other religious directions too. So, what is your thinking on that?
Yeah, you mentioned many points, and I think transcendence for me is multidimensional. It's very difficult to define what is transcendence. And for me, it's all about, as you mentioned in the last part, it's about living the transcendence in any moment with different consciousness, different perception, different lens that we can cultivate within, seeing the sacred in everything, and this level of connectedness with the sacred is going to evolve at any moment throughout the entire life, and this is never ending. So another way of saying is to connect with virtues. For me all the virtues are the qualities that are very core to us, and when we connect deeply to our virtues, then we transcend the normal states that we live, without consciousness.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
so.
Great. Thank you. And then we have a comment or question from Paul Naroki. Paul, your line is open.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Thanks.
Yes.
Wonderful. Being a beginner in this particular study area, it appears that there's a sense of integratedness between the left side and the right side of the brain. And also from when you spoke about awareness of awareness of awareness, it was kind of interesting how my mind got lighter. I was just wondering if you can comment on that. Is there interactions that you guys do as some type of tests that are integrating different parts of the mind as if they're being oscillated together? I'm not using the proper words, but hopefully you get the descriptions properly.
Yes. There is a deep structure in our consciousness. And when I said, let's connect with the source of our consciousness, observe our breathing, because there is something that is observing, and we can call it whatever name, but at this level, it's an observer. Something is aware of something. So when we connect with the source of that awareness, something curious is happening, because we are going back to the very, very pure state of our life. And there is something even behind, even more, that we can discover when we connect with the source of awareness, and something that's another level of transcendence that we can talk about, to transcend the states of consciousness. But this inspiration with ourselves, with a very deeper aspect of ourselves, for me, they are not for just experiencing different states of consciousness or altered states of consciousness. For me, what is more important is why, or for what we experience that. And when we connect deeply with ourselves, we can connect deeply with our virtues, really. And that's the source of inspiration, source of virtuous inspiration, source of all the goodness and feeling or for evolution and service and well-being and happiness that I mentioned at the beginning. So there is something very deep on that topic, on that experience.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul, for that great question, and thanks, Masaya. One question in the chat, Masaya, is, do you think that virtues are underestimated in our Western society? And if so, which ones? Oh, you're muted here. Your line is muted, Masaya. You need to unmute. There we go.
Yes, I think it's underestimated, but more accurately, it's not so talked about, really. It's out of our consciousness, and so what is needed more is to value what a virtue is, but also bring consciousness to what we already have, those qualities that all the philosophers have been talking about. So the lack of awareness is more predominating, I think, than the underestimation.
Yes, thank you. Let's open up the line. And by the way, thanks, Messiah, for being willing to go a little bit over our typical time. I know some people have to jump off, but we'll just go for a few more minutes. So Adana Spicker has her hand up. Adana, if you can open up your line. Or
what I'm interested in learning more about, maybe Ryan, you can speak to this at some point. I realize we're at the end of this session here, but how do the character strengths, how can they be looked at to achieve more pleasure, learning, and contribution, to be succinct? It just fascinates me.
Yes, character strengths for me are the energy that brings us to the cultivation of all the well-being, health, happiness, flourishing, and it's the source of our drive, inner drive that moves forward in the process of evolution and in the process of service and contribution. And we can use any character strength to increase our well-being, increase our health. We can use any character strength to evolve, to grow. to learn new things. We can use any character strengths to serve, to give, to contribute. So those are very, character strengths for me are at the core of all human activities and all good human activities.
Excellent, thank you. So we have just time for one more question. Eleanor, you can open up your line here, and if you can offer a pretty succinct, quick comment or question for Masaya.
Yeah, so I was really struck by the SPIRE model and how it includes relational in the mindfulness-based practices, because I found a lot of Western style mindfulness practices to be very sort of individualized, like internal focused, and this relational piece seems really important. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about like how that fits in and why. And then I just, partly because that was the actual question that came up for me, I just wanted to plug very quickly, me and somebody else on this call a couple of weeks ago decided that we wanted to try to do a peer matching thing based on via character strengths, and we've actually moved forward with that. And so we started by putting together a Google form. And so if you're interested in figuring out, like, for example, I'm somebody who's very creative, humor based, and I would love to be able to have chats more with people who are very temperance and judgment based, because that's what I'm not so great at. And so we created this first draft of a Google form to try to sort of help folks get matched up. And so I just popped that into the chat if folks were interested. But yeah, because of that relational piece, I'd love for you to chat a little bit more about, you know, how does that fit and why might that not be present in other forms? Thank you, Masaya.
Thank you, great. Actually, the MBSB has very good impact on positive relationships. So this is something we have observed, including in Tech Millennial. We observed a lot of students mentioning that they improved their relationship with their family, with their friends, and all sorts of relationships. So it's a very important area for well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks, Eleanor, for the plug. I think that'll be a lot of people will be interested in that from United in Strengths. Oh, and Masaya, by the way, the SPIRE model, that's from the Whole Being Institute, right?
Right.
Yes, yeah. If some of you may or may not know, the Whole Being Institute is a coaching and certification organization on the East Coast of the United States. Well, Masaya, we are at the end. Thanks for your perseverance, but even more so for your wisdom and your demonstration of these virtues as you embody and as you work. It's very apparent, and it's a wonderful thing, and people are spotting that in you like crazy here in the chat room. So thank you very much for that. And really, as a concluding thing, sort of one of the traditions is for me to note a quote from the person to conclude the session. So one thing that really struck me that you said, and you were actually said you were quoting Suzuki, but I think it's a beautiful thing to maybe conclude on for all of us, and that you had said that the most important thing is to remember the most important thing. And that's a beautiful, beautiful quote for us all touching what matters most in this world and what matters most to us for creating meaning. And so it's a wonderful conclusion for us. So thank you for that, Masaya. And thank you to all of you in the community here. We look forward to connecting with you, hopefully on the Facebook group before next Monday, but then for our Community Asks session on this coming Monday. So feel free to post your questions to Facebook or to Ruth or I directly. So thank you all. Thank you again, Masaya.
Thank you.